Hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and I just wanted to apologize. The bit of footage you're about to see was the second attempt I made today to to try and get this piece of footage done. I don't know why, but my fancy camera died on me apparently almost immediately after I turned it on, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I will find out. However, I need to just add in here a little bit of the story, otherwise you won't understand what I'm talking about when the video itself starts to run. I was telling a story about a young man who came to me. As some of you may know, one of the things I do in my other life is I help young people who are trying to get into med school or trying to get into university in some way, where they require not just very good marks, but also that you have to go through an interview process as well. And that's where I come in, because my whole expertise is taking young people and getting them ready to do that sort of an interview. And what I like to work on is actually having them not sound like a young student who's just trying to get into university, but actually sound much more mature. And so with today's competition, and I have to say that for university is so strong and so high, and that everybody's got really good marks, and that's not enough anymore. You know, you need to have more than good marks. You need to be able to get through the interview. And so that's what I spend time doing with young people. This young man you're about to hear about came to me. He'd already tried to get into university to study medicine and failed, and had heard about me through goodness knows who. It's amazing how the word of mouth spreads. But he came to me and we worked together, but we didn't have a lot of time before he went to go and take the whole process, and unfortunately it didn't make it. And I actually was not that surprised. I've got to be quite honest. I did what I could, but you know, you only have so much you can do in a certain amount of time. So I tried not to take it too personally, and I'm very pleased to say that he came back to me the following year, and we worked on everything we need to work on, and he got in to university. And then that is the backstory to what you're about to hear on the drive into work today. So here we go. I've had to change cameras because yet again my fancy camera just died on me, and it definitely wasn't a battery problem. Now it's interesting because I have moved it today and now it dies, so maybe there's something about this location. Somebody suggested it may be a heater somewhere close by, and I don't really feel it. I mean, there is some heat, but not the sort of heat that would mess with the camera. Okay, let me get on with this. So anyway, so this young man gets into university, and then, as I said, a few times during the year I'd get this panic call. He was overwhelmed and didn't think he was going to make it, and he wasn't going to hack it, or he'd failed he felt he'd failed at something, and then at one point he actually did fail at something, and you can imagine what that did to his ego. He was used to passing things, and he had to do extra schooling in the summer to make up his marks. But he did. And each time I got the call, I would just listen to him, and it was a very sad thing to listen to because you knew how genuine his pain was. And then what happened was he made it all the way through, or he's made it through to fourth year.
And now he's got to start the process all over again, because now he's got to work on his specialty. In other words, he's already that far along. Now he needs to do the next bit, which is to go to and do his specialty. And so, needless to say, he came back to see me. And I knew where he wanted to be. He wanted to stay in the university that he's been in, because it's close to his family and it's where his girlfriend lives, and he didn't want to uproot both of them and so forth. Anyway, the amazing thing was that he came to me and I said, okay, fine. How many universities have you applied to? And he's getting the idea now. He's really, he understands you've got to play the odds. So he said that he'd taken the unbelievable step of applying to every university, basically, that he wanted to go to. And I think that ended up being about 5 or 6. But there was this one that he wanted. So I said, okay, fine. And what I knew from my experience was that the university he wanted to be in holds their interviews towards the end of the round of interviews, because they know that there are going to be a lot of people applying, and they sort of, I think all the universities sort of slotted in. Anyway, I got the call yesterday. He'd said to me, let me just explain, he'd said to me when he was doing these interviews, I'd get tweets and WhatsApp messages from all over the country telling me he'd just, done another interview and it didn't go very well. And I would then just chat with him about, what did you learn? Which question was difficult for you, so that we could sort of work on stuff. And so each time, he was gaining a bit more experience, and he said by the time he got to the university that he wanted, one of the things I train people to do is to have a conversation, not to have a scary interview, because that's what mature people do, is they are going to have a conversation about what they're doing, because that's their confidence level. It's they have no reason to be terrified. Life does not end if you don't get in here. It's just, a conversation. And so often, it's very much a personality thing. Do they like you as a person? And do they like the way you react? Or do they like your perseverance? Or whatever, they happen to be looking for. So anyway, the good news was that he did all these interviews around the country and was telling me about how much money he'd spent doing that, flying all over, and hotels and goodness knows what else. And I said, well, you've got to look at it that what you're doing is you're actually paying for experience. Each interview that you do is more experience, and you need to understand that. So by the time he got to the last one, guess what? He was pretty laid back. It's like he'd been asked this question 16 times before, so he knew how many it was, 5, 6. So, he was pretty good on that one by then. And I'm just delighted to say that yesterday I got the email to tell me that he got in. And I wish you could have read the email, because it was so darn cute. The email sort of started by telling me he got in. And then how unbelievable that was. And of course I nearly cried, because I was so happy for him. And then he sent me about 3 more little notes, about, really, can you believe this? And I said he deserved it. I really, really genuinely know he deserved it. Now, does life bring you what you deserve? Not in all cases, no. Definitely not. But if you are true to yourself, and if you are an honest person in this, when I say honest in this, You know, he never pretended to be super confident. He never pretended to be what he wasn't. He just wanted to be a doctor, and he didn't want to be a doctor like a brain surgeon or, you know, a family doctor. He wanted to be a research doctor, somebody, you know, who sat in a lab and analyzed things. And so for him, the difficulty was, you know, all this social interaction when that's not really what his bag is, if you like. And some of you will understand what I'm talking about. You know, this whole learning and interview process is very social in a lot of ways. Especially when you're a med student, you know, you're forever being put up in front of your colleagues and, you know, made to feel small or you know, because you don't know something. You know, it's a horrible process. And I kept saying, you know, you sure you want to do this? Because it's tough, and there's a reason why it's tough. They want to build the resiliency you're going to need in your life to be a good doctor, and I understand that too. Anyway, so the good news is, and I'm sure you're all delighted, he made it. And he didn't just make it into a university, which he was really concerned that he would do. He made it into his university. So way to go. And the reason I wanted to tell the story is because for some of us it is way more difficult than for others. Do you know what I mean? For some of us, really? Sorry, there was a guy that was just foot down through a car park taking a shortcut, and he came out right in front of me. That was, as you probably saw, pretty scary. And then owing to the fact that he had to stop right in front of me because that's what it was, I decided for a split second I wasn't going to move. Like, hello, you're in such a hurry, let me slow you down, because, you know, you should not be driving at that speed. Of course, that did not please him any, but I don't care. All right, so good things happen to good people sometimes, people, but not all the time. So understand that sometimes you can work your heart out and not achieve your goal. But the good news is you will learn a lot. This is DearMamaSal saying, perseverance is so important in your life. What you think will take you a short time sometimes can take you a long time. The question is, do you really want to do it? This is DearMamaSal saying, bye-bye for now.